let's get this up here. Here we are. All right. How are you doing? I am going to go ahead and get started on things here in a second. I want to make sure that everything gets going the way that it needs to go, partially because I've got a ton of stuff going on. And that's my son not wanting to be seen, I guess. So anyway, this day we're doing horseshoe sandwiches. I will explain what they are in a bit, but the first key ingredient in this, the one that needs the longest time to prepare, are French fries. And so I've already got the oven started. I will get more into other things here in a second. But just your standard crinkle-cut French fries. They are, I know some people like shoestrings on these. I personally have always preferred crinkle-cut just as a better style for these. And like I said, I'll explain more here in a bit. It's about a pound of these. I'm going to go ahead and spread them out so they're all single stack. Oh, really good. A little bit of seasoning salt. How are you doing? Saw somebody popped in. All right. A little bit of seasoning salt on the French fries. These are going to go into the oven. I just realized I need to adjust where the rack is. I had the broiler on last night, and I don't right now, so. There we are. And so the fries are going to go in. And the timer on those is 20 minutes. There we go. Now, how are you doing? Hey, Susan. Let me get some music going. I'm going to go ahead and crack myself a beer. And I am going to put the fries back in the freezer. So, all kinds of stuff going on today. For those folks who are not familiar with horseshoe sandwiches, they are a delicacy from my home state of Illinois, especially from where I grew up in Springfield. Let's see, where's the... There it is. Just need to get a twist tie for the fries. So, I grew up in a town southeast of Springfield, Illinois, and Springfield is the home of the horseshoe sandwich. And for those of you who have not, lots of regions of the country have their own thing. Louisville, Kentucky's got the hot brown. There's other stuff in other parts of the country. Oh, and by the way, if the music gets too loud, let me know. I'm more than happy to change that volume. So, the horseshoe sandwich is essentially, they're trying to replicate like an actual horseshoe. So you've got where you normally would have the hoof, the horseshoe itself, and then the nails coming in. They flipped it on its top. So you've got Texas toast on the bottom, some sort of protein, meat, usually ham, hamburger. I've seen all kinds of different things. And then you've got French fries on top as the nails, and then you'll put a cheese sauce on top of that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on some of this stuff. I'm going to crack my beer here. There's a friend of mine who's supposed to be sponsoring me today. She's associated with Memorial Medical Center, the large medical organization there in Central Illinois. And unfortunately, that shirt didn't show up. And so I thought it was going to be awesome to have a heart attack on the plate being made while being sponsored by a medical professional. But unfortunately, that shirt did not show up. It's probably going to show up either later today or Monday. What are you going to do? So I went ahead and I grabbed my Illinois State Fair shirt out because I figured that this would be more appropriate, seeing as how this is the area where the horseshoe sandwich originated. And I practically grew up on the Illinois State Fairgrounds, and we would go up in June for a horse show. And every time we would go up there, there's a couple places we would stop and we would eat horseshoe sandwiches. And it was a regular at our house growing up. It was one of those things that everybody's got their own little recipe, their own little variation on it. And a lot of different people do their own thing. And so I'm going to be showing you how I do a horseshoe sandwich. I know there's a ton of places in the Springfield area right now that have their own variation, their own take on it. And everybody's is the best. But I like mine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start making, I've got the French fries already in. I'm going to make the cheese sauce, and I have to toast bread, and I have to heat up some of the ham that's going to be in here. So I am going to go ahead and grab out medium-sized skillet, and I'm just going to put that on warm. And just get a little bit of color in the meat. All of this ham, this is leftovers. Hey, Sarah. This is leftovers I have from Easter. So this is what we did for Easter is we had a ham. And so once you take that ham roast apart, you're going to end up having a whole lot of slices like this. One of the best things I have right now is we have a ham bone sitting in the fridge and some beans up in the cupboard. So we're going to end up making ham and bean soup at some point over the next week. So, all right. And so, like I said, I've got just a bunch of pieces of ham. I'm going to throw those in, let them warm up, maybe get a little bit of color. They don't have to be on high heat or anything. Normally, if you were to have something like this in the Springfield, Illinois area, you would have a like a full ham steak. But I don't have a full ham steak. I've got a lot of these leftover pieces from like I said, from Easter. So I'm going to get enough here that I can really cover 4 pieces of toast. So because I'm going to be making 2 full horseshoe sandwiches. And if a horseshoe sandwich is too big for you, then you can use instead of using 2 pieces of Texas toast, you can use 1 piece of Texas toast. 2 pieces is a horseshoe, 1 piece is a pony shoe. And that's actually how they show up on the menus when you see these. All right, ham's in to warm up. Now I'm going to start making my cheese sauce. The cheese sauce is essentially just a white sauce that has cheese melted into it with some sort of dairy product, milk, cream, half and half, whatever you have. Again, the white sauce and the cheese sauce recipe come out of the Betty Crocker cookbook. I cannot stress enough, if nothing else, this whole series of coronavirus cooking ads, bits that I've done over the last couple of months now, have been an ad for the Betty Crocker cookbook. Go to the used bookstore, find an old paperback or hardback cover of the Betty Crocker cookbook. You will not be sorry. So the cheese sauce, well, it starts out with the white sauce. I'm going to go ahead and put that at about 4.5. It starts out with 1-to-1 butter and flour. And so when you get that in there, you want to melt the butter down. You guys didn't see earlier, but I dropped a French fry and I just got a little bit of cold French fry between my toes. It's not a good feeling. All right. So, and I'm using, even though like for the gravy that I did a couple weeks ago, I used a skillet to mix the gravy in because we were doing sausage gravy. It was a little bit different thing. For the cheese sauce, I tend to like to use a taller, like a medium-sized pot like this. So let me get this up out of the way. I want to get a little bit of soap and water on my hands. I get a little bit greasy after that ham. And no, I'm not doing the full 30 seconds. I'm not singing my song. By the way, I'm always interested in finding out from people, whenever you do your hand washing now that we're all supposed to be doing, I always wonder what people's song is. What the song is that you've chosen to sing in your head Some people just stick with the ABCs. Some people do other things. Personally, I like the opening and first verse of "I Want to Be Sedated" by why can't I remember, the Ramones. So, all right, butter is melting. I'm gonna keep the ham down on low. Butter is melting. I'm going to use my flour here. I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons. One of the things you can do for flour, a lot of people keep canister kind of things like this with stuff like flour, but you always have a problem getting the stuff out. Take a spoon you don't like, bend the bowl over. All right, so it's 1, 2, 3. That's about 3 tablespoons. Whisk that in. And so you're going to make a little bit of a paste here. You just want to get the butter, and I usually end up adding a little bit more butter at some point anyway. So I've just whisked that in. And because I have it, I've got some heavy cream. I'm going to go ahead and use the heavy cream. Hey, John, how are you doing, bud? So right now I know that I've got people from Illinois, Tennessee, and New York watching. John, I know you're up in New York State. I hope you're doing awesome, because I know too many people up in New York who are suffering right now. A friend of mine from high school out in Arizona, he lives in Miami. Well, he lives in Florida. His mom lived in New York City, and unfortunately she passed away due to coronavirus. Another friend of mine, a guy I always actually wanted to ask you, John, if you knew, Jamie Harold, he's an actor, lives up in New York, has been in just a ton of stuff from Patriot games on down. Okay, the cream makes this really creamy, but it also makes it really thick. So I'm going to add a little more of the cream, but then I'm going to add a little bit of regular milk. Milk right there. So, but my friend Jamie, he lives in Brooklyn, and he's lost a bunch of his neighbors who live in his big apartment building. So that's thinned up. I've got that in there a little bit. Hey, Mike, how are you doing, sir? So, got the basis of the white sauce going. It's butter, flour, and milk. I'm adding a little bit of pepper. Because I'm going to be doing a cheese sauce, I like adding a little bit of ground mustard. So I'll put a few shakes of ground mustard in there. Most of my sauces, big fan of the Worcestershire. Worcestershire is one of the most amazing inventions humans have ever come across. And I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. And remember, anytime you're adding any spices like this, don't ever pour the stuff out directly from the container into the pot. You want to pour it into your hand, or pour it over something else, because you don't want to completely dump the stuff. Cool, thanks, John. I still feel bad because I have your base, but I don't know if I ever told you that. All right. All right, there is that. I'm going to let that white sauce, I'm going to drop the heat on it just a little bit here, because I'm going to flip the ham over. And somebody was commenting a few weeks ago, they were impressed with me using chopsticks to cook. It's just practice. The more you get used to doing something like this, the easier it is. And honestly, it's easier to flip stuff and turn stuff and control stuff with chopsticks than it is like a fork or a knife or something. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and set those right there. Hey, Jody. It's nice to see you, bud. So, anyway, for those of you who are tuning in a little bit late, today I'm making horseshoe sandwiches. It's a fine delicacy from the area of central Illinois where I grew up. Part of the reason why I'm wearing this shirt today. It is essentially they're taking a take on horses, like a horseshoe from like an actual horse, and flipping it upside down. So what you have is instead of the horse's hoof, the horseshoe and the nails, you flip it up, and so you've got Texas toast is the hoof. You've got the ham, like a ham steak, or you can do hamburger patty, or you can do any kind of other meat you want to do. We've done it with turkey. We've done it with just any pork, anything you've got left over. You put that down as the horseshoe, and then you put crinkle-cut French fries on top as the nails, and then, of course, because everything's better with cheese, you dump it on top with cheese sauce. So I've got the French fries. They are mostly done now in the oven. They're going to be done here in a few minutes. I've got the white sauce that I'm about ready to start grating cheese into. And then I've got the ham going on, and as soon as I get the cheese into the white sauce, I am going to be going in and once I get the cheese in the white sauce and it gets stirred in, I'm going to start toasting the bread. So again, this white sauce, well, the cheese sauce is just the Betty Crocker white sauce, and it even tells you in there how to make cheese sauce. So I'm just going to sit here. And if you want to, you can prep the cheese earlier and then just throw it in. You can use the packaged shredded cheese. You can do however you wish. And there's no right way, no wrong way to do it. Well, there's some wrong ways to do it, but. And for the spices on all this stuff, you can do the spices however you want to. The spices don't have to be spot on. Everybody has their own taste preferences. It's like with all of my Southwestern or Mexican stuff, I always throw cilantro in, and I know that there's a lot of people who don't like cilantro. So if you don't like cilantro, leave it out. With this, if you don't like, if you're trying to keep back your salt, watch out. You can drop your salt content easily enough, but really honestly, if you shouldn't be eating salt, you probably don't want to be eating a horseshoe sandwich. There's a reason they call this a heart attack on the plate. All right, let's get that stirred in. Let that bubble up a little bit. I'm gonna add a little more milk. That's one of the things to watch on this, is you always want to make sure that even though you want to thicken up a little bit, you don't want it to turn into a glue. And hope the music's not too loud. The music today is the first time torture by food. There's a bit of that. The music I'm playing today, you may or may not be able to pick it up, is BTS. If it wasn't for coronavirus, tonight we would be, my wife, my daughter, and I would be sitting in Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas, waiting to catch BTS in concert. And so we are missing the event that we were looking forward to for about a year now. But that's kind of how it goes. All right, 1, 2, 3, and 4 pieces of Texas toast going into the toaster. Oh, there we go. 4 pieces of toast in the toaster. I'm going to get a little bit more milk in there. And then, here in a minute, hey bud, there's Wellington. For those of you who don't know Wellington, he's our pup. Alright, with a little bit of that, I am going to drizzle some of this into this little bowl here so I can do a taste test without corrupting the whole thing, because I want to look like I'm a little bit That's got a good flavor to it. I just want to look a little bit professional when I do these. All right. Fries. 2 more minutes left. Ham is nicely warmed up. Cheese sauce really is done and just sitting here warm, waiting to go. Toast is toasting, and it should be getting done here in a minute. I'm going to grab a couple of plates, and we're going to get ready to plate all of this stuff here in a minute. All right, nice big plates. I'm going to get the bread put back up. I hope everybody is having a good day. The sponsor today was supposed to be the Memorial Medical Center. A good friend of mine is a person associated with the organization. It is the major hospital network in Central Illinois. There's the toast. There's more toast. But it's the major medical center in Central Illinois, and so, for example, the hospital I grew up going to was ended up becoming part of Memorial Medical Center, and what they are experiencing in Central Illinois is the same thing a lot of people in other parts of the country are experiencing right now. They are experiencing people who are not taking the warnings seriously. They're experiencing people who are going out of their way to take part in activities that will make coronavirus expand and get bigger. They're taking part in activities that are going to get more people sick. We are at a point with coronavirus where the numbers are finally starting to look like they're going to level off, but the problem is they need to go all the way down. If they level off and people keep doing stuff, there's the French fries. If they level off and people keep doing what they're doing, the number's going to go back up. And our medical professionals are the ones who are on the front lines of that. They're the ones who are going to be hurting the most. Let me get the fries. All right, let's see here. Really quickly, I am going to use my favorite trick. Do that. And I'm going to take that oven and I'm going to put it on broil. Let's see, turn her off. I'm going to go broil up. And I am going to let the French fries broil for 2 minutes. So what I like to do for fries is the fries might be done, but if you like them crispy like I do, and especially for something like this where you're putting a sauce on top, you want them to be crispy. And so what I'm doing is fries are cooked through. I just stuck them underneath the broiler for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. And so when they come out, they're going to be nice and crisp. They'll be ready to go on the plate. And again, the horseshoe, for those who have not been here for all of this, the horseshoe sandwich, it is an open-faced sandwich where you've got the bread, which is the hoof. You have protein, in this case it's a ham slice, is going to be the horseshoe. And then you've got French fries coming on top. Those are the nails. And then, of course, you're going to be covering it with cheese. There you go. My sister Carol popping in the Leland Hotel in Springfield, Illinois. The inventors of the original horseshoe. And like I've said before, there's a ton of people who believe their horseshoe is the best. And everybody has an opinion. So, I've got my ham. It's all nicely warmed up. I'm going to start laying it out on the toast. And you can do this, you can do as a protein, you can do a ham slice, you can do ham steak, you can do hamburger patty, you can do broken up turkey leftovers after, I don't know how many times we had turkey horseshoes after Thanksgiving growing up. And it's one of those things that we still do to this day. So this is all leftover ham from Easter that is just some really good stuff. And let's make sure that we've got enough to go around. I'm going to slice up that last piece in there. But the horseshoes are really good. Just really yummy. Hey, Wellington. There you go, pup. He is the luckiest dog. All right. So, French fries out of the oven, nice and crispy. So we are getting to the point now where we are going to start assembling all of this. And from the time that I started, right now we're looking at 25 minutes. The only thing that took outside this 25 minutes was just turning on the oven and letting it warm up to 425. So I've got the horseshoe, I've got the hoofs, the shoes. I've got to get the fries put into place. And so get those French fries. I wonder, can you have, yeah, you can see those. I'm going to slide these back so you get a little better view of this. All right. And the French fries, I went ahead and I poured some seasoned salt on them ahead of time. I know some people, personally, I'm a fan of crinkle-cut fries for this. I know some people prefer shoestrings or like McDonald's style. There's a variety of different things you can do. And again, 2 pieces of toast with the ham, the fries, and the cheese sauce, that's a horseshoe. 1 piece is a pony shoe, so that's like the half size. And this is the same thing you'll get if you go to any restaurant in Central Illinois and they have horseshoes. So, I have my cheese sauce, and again, this is the white sauce out of the Betty Crocker cookbook, and I will never stop telling you, go to the used bookstore, get the old paperback Betty Crocker cookbook that have everything you would ever need to cook. Like, granted, it's not going to have a pho recipe, or it's not going to have the ramen stuff that I was making a few weeks ago, or some of the other stuff that's not post-2000s America, or like international stuff. But for most of the basic stuff that you might want to cook at some point, it's going to all be in there. Again, like white sauces, a variety of different soups. There we go. There we are. A little bit of cheese sauce there. A little bit of cheese sauce there. And again, this is a really, may not be easy, but it's a lot simpler than you might think, or at least the components are. And it's stuff that if you're looking to get rid of excess stuff that's in your fridge or your pantry, if you're looking at trying to get rid of things that are, like I said, just like excess in general, if you are trying to clear out stuff you've accumulated, there's lots of different options on this. And always, okay, so my sister posted the original recipe that the Leland Hotel has. I always like throwing a little bit of paprika on top. Partially to give it a little extra kick, partially to give it a little bit of color. So, there we go. Horseshoe sandwich. So, they are a filling thing. So, if you're not too hungry, I know that's probably going to get, one of these is going to get split into 2. Very likely into a couple of ponies. But I am very glad you guys stopped by. I am hoping, I'm supposed to get a t-shirt for Memorial Medical Center earlier today or yesterday, and it's probably not going to show up until Monday. I was supposed to be sponsored on Memorial, sponsored by a friend of mine who works for Memorial Medical Center. They're the big hospital network in Central Illinois, and they are going through the same thing that medical workers are going through across the country. They are being faced with circumstances at work that are, in some cases, horrific. But they are also being faced with members of the public who are actively spreading nonsense about what's going on with coronavirus. The video Plandemic is a perfect example of that. There are a ton of people I've seen who believe Plandemic is the truth, and they think that the whole thing is a myth that's being perpetuated to, I don't know, insert your cause here. And all this stuff, hey, Cater, it's just, I cannot stress enough that everyone needs to take COVID more seriously. I've seen the Walmarts here. I've heard stories from friends of mine in Illinois, friends of mine in Montana, elsewhere around the country. Places that have not been hit as hard as some, maybe New York. And the places that were hit, or like the places that haven't been really hit yet, you've got, at Walmart, you've got the arrows in the aisles that you're only supposed to go one way. Requirement that everybody's supposed to wear a mask, and you're supposed to only be in there by yourself. And repeatedly, we are seeing, I'm personally seeing, my wife saw this morning, a friend of mine saw in Billings, Montana yesterday, people who are ignoring the one ways, people who are not wearing masks. Last time I went to Walmart, I saw people wearing masks covering just their nose and not their mouth, or just covering their mouth and not their nose, or just had a mask and it was around their neck. I mean, it was just, you need to start doing this better. So, yeah, this t-shirt from my sister Carol, years back, 150th anniversary of the Illinois State Fair. I grew up on this state fairground. Growing up in the horse show industry was a little bit different background. And that's part of why I have such an affinity for these sandwiches. We would go to a horse show in Springfield, Illinois every summer in June, which unfortunately got canceled. And we would go and we would do the horse show, but then one lunch at least during that week, we would stop off and get horseshoe sandwiches at one of a couple of different places. And I cannot stress how much of a fond memory of mine that is. And I knew that when there was a friend of mine who was in the medical industry wanting to sponsor this episode, and again, I'm sorry that her shirt didn't show up. I'll be wearing it next week. It was very much a natural thing, focusing on Central Illinois, yet also in the medical community. So yeah, heart attack on the plate. This is the total heart attack on the plate. With that, though, I think I'm going to go ahead and let you guys all go. I know my food's starting to get cold, and I'm starting to get hungry. So I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you stay safe. Keep your distance from everybody. If anybody has something they want to see me make, if anybody has something that if they want to sponsor an episode, send me a t-shirt. I'll be more than happy to wear your t-shirt here while I do my cooking and talk about whatever your cause is, whether it's a business or personal, professional, whatever. Go ahead, and I look forward to doing this next week. I believe I'm going to be, right now I'm looking at doing something dessert related. You might want to have some tea ready. So that's going to be a fun time. I will talk to you all later, and I'm going to get to have my lunch. Bye-bye.